y'all. I am Shatara Span, the CEO of Dad's Fighting Cancer, and tonight we're bringing to you part 2 of Facing It Together. I have with me
Ms. Rosalind Span, President.
Brennan Simmons, Vice President.
Tim Dukes, Lead Advisor.
And tonight our topic we'll be talking about cancer. So each person at the table this evening, we've all been affected in some way, in one way or another. We've all dealt with cancer. Tonight, we're just gonna pretty much open up, get to the meat and the bones of our story, share, and
How it affects us.
Yeah.
Pretty much, right?
pretty much get into how it affected us and how we felt at that time.
Right.
So for most of you who know me, those who do know me, the organization is based around my father, Pastor Tom Span Sr. I've dealt with cancer in my household for 4 years. I've seen my dad in and out of the hospitals. I've seen him go through chemotherapy. I've seen him at his highest, and I've seen him at his weakest points. There was a lot of in between within 4 years. A lot that I can say. I've learned a lot through that journey, but I've also learned so much more after his passing.
Absolutely.
And my mom, who obviously lived in the house with me, her role as the spouse and as the caretaker, of course, her role is completely different from my role. Me giving you my perspective as the child or a daughter of a dad that was fighting cancer. So I just want to kind of wanted to open up the floor for those who know my story, but I kind of just want to get into your side of the story. Can you share with us a little bit of what you had to go through as far as when you first got the news that your husband was diagnosed with cancer? What were you doing, or do you remember where you were and how it made you feel?
Actually, yes, that's a day I will never forget. When we first got the news that he had cancer, we were actually at the hospital, and he had been there for like a second week, and they were running all kinds of tests, and they did a couple of biopsies, and the first diagnosis that came, and the doctor came in and told him he had cancer, and he was like, no, it's not cancer. I don't know why you would even come in here and say that. So, like, immediately from the beginning, it was a denial. So then they actually transferred him to a different hospital where he saw another doctor that specialized more in cancer. And this doctor was well known for dealing with cancer patients. So as he went to the other hospital, they ran different tests, biopsies and everything. And about 3-4 days later, they came back and they said, Mr. Span, you have cancer. And he was like, where did you get that from? He said, well, from the biopsies that we've been running on you and the tests that we've ran, it comes back that you have non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And
Can you explain what that is?
it's a blood disease, and it's dealing with the white blood cells, and it generally starts, well, it's a long process, but anyway, the night sweats, you may develop a lump or
Lumps
in the body, in the lymph nodes, different places. His actually started in his foot.
Okay.
And then from the foot, it went up his leg and then to his groin area, and that's how they were able to discover that it was cancer.
I remember at one point they were talking about actually amputating his foot. And that's how we kind of started getting like, what? Like, it went from his foot being like really swollen, and he was like having trouble sleeping. And probably that's the time when you were talking about y'all were in the hospital then.
Yes.
Where I remember they were talking about amputating the foot off at one point.
So yeah, he would just like, just take the foot, and then they was like, well, Mr. Span, it won't do any good to take the foot because it's in other parts of your body, and with this disease, it moves from one place to another. So you can have it in your foot, it'll be in the leg, it could be in your arm, lymph node. So it actually spread it to his pancreas. So that was like the final point there. But this disease, it just stay in one place. So even if they had killed it in the foot, it moved to other areas of the body. So
It would've
just
did that before.
amputating his foot wouldn't have done anything because it was already, up his leg,
Wow.
growing, pancreas. So
It's already
like,
traveling.
So
Yeah.
was it? Do you remember the stage that he had been diagnosed in? Like, was it something that could have been prevented had he caught it ahead of time?
had
Or was
he,
it something that was not going to
well,
change?
had the doctors discovered it ahead of time, because it was like maybe like a year and a half prior to them really finding out what it is, he was having
took a while for
problems,
them to figure it
and
out.
they
Wow.
just couldn't figure out what it was, what his issue was. But then when they did discover it, he was like in between the stage 4, more at stage 4, because it's already located in different
Started
areas
spreading.
of the body, had already started spreading. So yeah, and then immediately, from that point on, it was just denial for him in the beginning, and then he came to terms with it.
What would you say was the hardest thing dealing with him battling this cancer? Like, as far as okay, I guess what I'm asking is, sometimes the emotional part, the mental part, takes more of a toll on somebody than the physical sometimes.
Yeah.
I would say it
Because-
takes a huge toll.
So,
Right.
like, like say for instance, as a spouse, you want to take that pain away. You want to be like, man, I wish I could just take it out of you. What was something that was like pivotal? Like, if you think about it like now, maybe a memory or something that that you can remember dealing with Pastor Tom's band.
Wow. As for me, it was just shock altogether, but then at the same time, I just want to comfort him. And I wanted to ensure him that everything is going to be okay, and that I was there and he didn't worry about me leaving or going anywhere, because I've heard that there are times like when a spouse may get sick and the other spouse can't handle it and they walk out on their spouses. That's something wasn't going to never happen, because when we took those vows to death do us part, that we took that as it is, to death do us part, and we did it exactly as we stood before God and said we were going to be together to death do us part, and that's what separated us, death. But yes, I was there at 100%, night in, night out. I stayed at the hospitals the whole time that he was in there, but he was in there a week. I'm up there the whole week with him. It's funny because the nurses would come in the room and I'm in the bed with him, and they'll be looking like, well, who's the patient?
She laying in the bed.
I'm laying in the bed with him. And he'll be like, she's the patient. I'm like, no, he's the patient. I'm like, well, look at the one with the IV, So, we would do that. And that was the first year. He got through the first year with the chemotherapy. And about 3-4 months later, it was back. And
Okay.
the form that he had was very, very, very aggressive. So every time he go into chemotherapy, it looked like it wouldn't kill it, but it would just kind of like just slow the process
it
down
down.
just a
Right.
little bit,
Okay.
And so then it got to a point where he needed to have the bone marrow. So then we started making trips back and forth to Tampa, going through all these different tests and then going through extensive chemo. Then they all did an autoimmune when they did the stem cell treatments and all of that. And he was in the hospital there for like 3.5 weeks, but we had to stay 7 weeks over there.
Wow.
Through the whole process. So the 3.5 weeks that he was in that hospital, I was in there 3.5 weeks with him every single day, every night with him.
So let me ask you a question. In that stage of cancer, if you're out of town for 3.5 weeks, you're obviously not working.
Right.
So then finances, I would start thinking about finances. Where would finances come in at this point? Did you have any type of insurance to help you? Any type of finances from other organizations or resources that kind of helped? with the hotel stays and traveling?
That's a good question.
Yeah, that's very important because, like, he was basically like the breadwinner in the house because,
Okay.
mind you, like, a couple of years before he was diagnosed with that, I had went through 2 major back surgeries, so I was just going through my healing
Okay.
process at that time.
Okay.
And just as he started getting sick and having these symptoms and was diagnosed, I was just getting better
Wow.
to take care
So
of
y'all pretty
him.
much flipped the role. Like he was there
Right.
for you, and now you was there for him.
Yes. And so he was pretty much the breadwinner. So now the roles are kind of like changing where I have to be responsible for maintaining the house and making sure the bills are getting paid and being paid on time. And so I had income coming in that helped took care of the responsibilities, but it wasn't enough. And you know, thank God for our children that you know had jobs and were able to pitch in and help, you know, with the you know maintaining some of the responsibilities and other family members and the church as a community, like churches that he played for. And when he was well, he'll go to church and he would play, so you know he will earn a little something there. But yeah, it's difficult. And then like as far as like insurance, he had Medicaid, but that just wasn't enough.
Right.
So when he was diagnosed, immediately they put him on disability. So then he was able. Well, before then, Obamacare had just started.
Okay.
So I know a lot of people say like, "Oh, Obamacare, you know, it doesn't help. It's too expensive."
Exactly.
But literally, Obamacare saved his life.
Thank God
It
for
saved
Obamacare.
his life because it hadn't been for Obamacare at the year that it came out. He wouldn't have made it, and we were able to get insurance, and the insurance that we got was Cigna, and we got like the top of the line Cigna insurance. And it covered travel, it covered food, it
Wow.
covered hotel expenses. So all we had to
That's
do
right.
was just keep a record of everything that we spent out, and we were reimbursed for every penny that we paid out, from gas mileage to staying in the hotels,
Wow.
buying food. We were reimbursed for all of that. So
That's
that was
amazing.
a plus.
Shout out to Cigna.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Obamacare.
we-
Shout out to
Yeah,
Cigna.
so I was like, I could be someone on television say Obamacare worked for me, worked for my family. It literally saved my husband's life,
Wow.
you know. So I thank God for that, you know. But yeah, we were reimbursed for everything, you know, and it's just so much like when you dealing with cancer, there's a lot of things and a lot of needs that are not met. But, you know, when you got a community that and a team of people and family members that are with you and supporting you, you can get through it.
Absolutely.
That's great. That is amazing.
And that's what Dad's Fighting Cancer is about. We want to be the organization to help those individuals that don't have the insurance or
That's
don't have the insurance that covers everything that is needed.
One thing that I like about Dad's Fighting Cancer is a lot of men, or a lot of people, period, we're just ignorant to what is out there. And we don't know to go look for it.
Right.
And a good thing that I like about Dad's Fighting Cancer is you guys are literally bringing it to their doorstep.
Right.
If we be honest, as men, we don't always like to say that we need help.
Mm-hmm.
We don't always like to say that we don't know, or that this is not something that I'm strong in.
Or we use Google as our doctor.
And then you're right, and Google
That's
tell
true.
us that we die tomorrow, and we only got.
I'm going on Google to find out how not to.
So one of the things that I like about Dad's Fighting Cancer, especially with us doing the box out cancer that we just did last August,
Yes.
it allowed everyone to kind of see the steps from it being an infant to where it is now.
Yes.
Right.
I myself want to just encourage you guys to keep going, keep doing what you're doing, because you guys are literally creating. I like to call it a lane that is not walked on by many,
Right.
because people don't know what Cigna is. You know what I'm saying? And then the way things are looking now, we might be without Obamacare. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So what saved your husband's life for the time that it did, they won't know
It's
what's going to
something-
save theirs. You
Right,
know what I'm saying?
right.
So you guys are going to be
Something
that
to get rid
signal.
of.
You know what I'm saying? You guys are going to be that bridge to say, hey, we can just come out and mow your grass.
Yes.
We can just give you a ride to the doctor. We can come and give your caretaker a break.
Right.
And let them go home and we'll wash your dishes or whatever the case may be. I
You
think that's
step out.
amazing
You're right.
because that's so selfless. You know what I'm saying? And I know myself, I just lost my uncle. I believe he had lung cancer stage 4 when they found it. He didn't have much long to live, like maybe about not even a year, I would say. And the thing about it is, it goes back to that conversation I was just saying, that when you don't know, you don't know.
Right,
You know
right.
what I'm saying? He lived in Alabama with his family, so I don't really know what type of help they had. I don't know that there was a Dads Fighting Cancer organization that was around. You know what I'm saying? And then even like you was talking about how it was Pastor Tom Spann that, it kind of took them a year and a half to recognize that it was cancer. That same thing happened with my granddad. 2011, he passed away July of that year, and before it was like a spot that was probably that big, and they didn't really think too much of it or whatever the case may be, but then later on they said, okay, that's cancer.
Wow. And
By
by that time,
it's too late.
it's
Right.
You know what I'm saying? By that time it was. So my thing is, I was young, obviously, so that was kind of like our first immediate death in that part of the family. Because we really didn't lose many people. You know what I'm saying? My granddad was the patriarch of the whole family. You know what I mean? Still has all his sons, all his daughters, still has all his grandkids. Like, we didn't really lose anybody. So not only did we feel like we lost a milestone, but we felt like we lost what we could have probably saved had we know.
Had you
You know what I'm saying?
Gone
Right.
So the good things that you were mentioning is you was talking about the symptoms of what Hodgkin. That's why I was asking you, like, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. What is that? Because I'm gonna be honest with you, a lot of people gonna watch this and gonna say, that just sounds like a name. I don't know what that is.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And then on the top of that, I hate to say it, but we all think that it can never come in our house. It can never happen to us. You know what I'm
true.
saying? And you
We're
could have that.
healthy, nothing's gonna happen.
Right. You
Yeah.
can.
And you could be
You
healthy
can
with
be
cancer.
healthy with cancer.
Right, because he was healthy the whole
You can
time with
work
cancer.
out.
When people saw him, they probably say, "Oh, he
You
don't
look
have
good,
cancer.
Tom."
He look good,"
Yeah.
because he was just strong. His will, his mindset was strong,
Right.
and he was always positive. Even when he was in the hospital bed getting chemo, the nurses always loved to just come and just mingle in the room because the atmosphere in there was just so positive.
Yeah.
And
that's the type of person he
and that's
was.
what
Yeah.
kept him alive so long. It was his positive attitude, besides God and treatment.
Right.
But yes, his doctor had even said to him, like, Tom, because he was from South Africa, and he was
That's
like,
not how you say it?
he's so
Tom.
Tom, yeah, he
Tom.
would say Tom. He's like, if it wasn't for if you didn't have your positive attitude, Tom, that you wouldn't even last. This year.
That's what it says.
You
They
wouldn't
usually
have
say
made
that
it,
what
this
takes somebody
year.
out is not necessarily the cancer. I think it was my bishop, McNeese, he was saying that when his brother was diagnosed with cancer, his brother had all this time and was perfectly fine. But the moment that he was diagnosed with it and he knew he had it, like his mind, his will, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so everything just started going downhill from
Right.
there.
Yeah.
And that's where holistic health comes into play because
Okay.
it's mind, body, spirit.
Can you explain that?
So holistic health is it comes in 3. So mind, body, and spirit.
Okay.
So your body is not physically well,
Right.
but your mind. So that's one thing we want to teach people is that if you get ahead of it, you educate yourself, you stay in a positive mindset, go out and breathe fresh air, go to the
Thank you.
beach,
Yeah.
look at the beautiful water.
Yes.
Now you're strengthening your mind and then your spirit. Whatever your belief is, you know, everyone has different Christianity, you're Muslim, you know, whatever your belief, be strong in your faith
Yeah.
and believe that I can fight this, I can get through this.
Right.
It's just a diagnosis, but I can be a conqueror. I am a conqueror. I can win.
Mhm.
So if we come in with that mindset from day one, and like your pastor was saying, it's not the cancer that's taking us out, it's the diagnosis.
Yeah.
Before we even get started, we out of here because we're constantly we let the thought of cancer take us out. We let it physically take us out and mentally take us out.
And that's what
So-
Pastor Tom Spann. He had cancer. Cancer didn't have him.
It didn't
Right.
have, and if
And I
anybody
believe that's
asked
why he
him,
lived
like,
so long.
he could not, you could literally see he's not feeling good.
Mm-hmm.
But if you ask him how he feel, he's gonna tell you, by his stripes, I am healed.
That was his
That's-
Anytime
okay.
someone
That's where-
asked him or spoke to him or just wanted to know how he was feeling, by his stripes, I am healed. That's how he's gonna answer you every time. By his stripes, I am
That's
healed.
Every time.
So-
That's good.
Either way, whether he got a physical healing, he always already had his spiritual healing.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So, and he knew, like, his faith was so deep in God, with God, that whatever God decided regarding his life, he was okay with that.
Now,
That's how
Brenda,
you know when you have true faith.
That's
Yeah.
yes.
Now,
Something like that.
you also had a personal experience with cancer.
Yeah, of course. Not a well, yeah, like an experience.
Family member.
Yeah. So, my dad, Everett Simmons, died of cancer 2013 in June, 2 days before his birthday. He was diagnosed in 2008, and I'm gonna tell you how that kind of like started. So, my dad doesn't like to tell anybody anything. You know, he doesn't want anybody to worry, right? So, he dealt with stress a different type of way, right? And he didn't want to do a lot of worrying. But I was in the Air Force. I went into the Air Force February 2008. He made it to my graduation of boot camp. And, you know, my dad, he's prior military too as well. So, you know, when he came with the energy, I knew it was him. And then he went to this real low state. I was like, nah, this not him. You know, he showed some like character changes right there.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and I'm your son. I'm going
You
to
can
know.
pick up on
Right.
it.
I'm going to pick it up.
I've known you.
So I'm
my
like-
life.
Hey, what's going on? Like, why you you seem down a little bit. You was just up here and you down a little bit. What's going on? I say, nah, this nothing to worry about. I say, all right, let's go get something to eat. Right? We go get something to eat. I see he going back into this sad state again. So I left that second time alone. Third time, we was in the car. We was on our way. I don't know. We was driving somewhere on base, and you know, he would talk to me like hype. He was excited. I was fit and all that stuff. You know, I was feeling good. And he said I was looking good.
Fit?
Yeah, once upon a time.
Oh,
It didn't happen too much.
okay.
I remember. I remember.
You
He used to
remember?
call me, don't be drinking lemonade, drink water.
Hey, okay.
Fit.
So
we were in Texas then, right?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. So by the way, my best friend followed me to Texas in 2008. Or was that 2009?
2000, yeah. 9.
Okay, cool.
8, 9.
Anyway,
Like that.
so the third time we was riding in the car, he fell into this, real sad state. And I was like, man, what's going on? Right? And then he said, all right, Brennan. He's like, all right, Brennan, I have pneumonia. Pneumonia? I was like, look, whenever you get sick, you like, devil, not today. You ain't gonna get me today, not on this day. So I knew it wasn't pneumonia, right? I still wanted to pick at him, but I was like, nah, he's sick. So he left, right? Graduation done, he left. I called him maybe a couple of weeks later. Like, hey, you still sick? He was like, Brennan, just worry about what you got up there. Don't worry about me. I'm good. I'm okay. All right. So I said, all right. So I focused on school, got out of tech school. They flew me down back home. I flew back home for 2 weeks. And that's when he actually told me. He said, Brennan, you called it out. It's stage 4 lung cancer. And they giving me 6 months to live. So so immediately I tried to, look up stuff. I thought I could do stuff, like I said, Google or whatever. I was trying to look up, is there a cure or whatever? And then my dad, he still had his hopes up, and he was like, "Oh, I could just go to Mexico. They got all kinds of stuff in Mexico."
Yeah.
Oh,
Right?
wow.
so
Dang,
he wanted to get flown out. He wanted to get flown out there, but I'm like, where? I'll get you out there. So I ended up letting him keep. We used to share, like when I was in boot camp, we shared actually like a bank account, and I said you could have the money. When I came back, have it. Whatever you need to do with it, do with it.
Right.
My dad is the type of person he don't want to take money from nobody. He still took it though, but let me just put that out there. He still took it though. That was a whole like $1,800. It's a lot to me back then.
Right. Back then, yeah.
Not now. But anyway, yeah. So long story short, he ended up surviving like for 5 years, 2008, 2013. So
That's a blessing.
he started really taking care of
That's a
himself,
blessing.
and yeah. So he kind of got out of the state, and then got back into the mind state. So I'm like, all right, cool. So and then he went into remission, right? He went into
Right.
remission. I was happy as heck, right? I was
Right.
happy, man. I was like, all right, cool. I got my daddy back,
Right.
but he still wasn't the same because that chemo hit you different, right?
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So the
Still-
chemo hit you different.
Chemo
So
came
Yeah.
before the cancer does.
yeah, because that chemo slowed him down and stuff like that. So he had to get, I think, I'm not mistaken, like shots of B12 to kind of like keep him up, right? I would drive him around, and I was reserved. So we're driving around. Hey, where do you want to go? Where you want to eat at? Trying to spend as much time, and at the same time, I was. When was this? This was when he was in remission. I think it was like 2 years after he was in remission. Something happened at work. He was still working during this time. Something happened at work. He hit his head. He lost his
Consciousness or
no. He couldn't talk. He was talking as if he was like a baby,
Oh,
right?
wow.
So that's when it really hit me. It really hit me because he couldn't talk and say what he wanted to say.
Right.
So we in there, we making fun of the words that he would say.
Oh my.
We knew what he was trying to say, right? We knew what he was trying to say, and then
Oh, horrible.
That was
like my dad used to always say, "Fantastic," right? And then
Oh.
when he tried to say that when he had no words, he's like, "Man, damn it," right? So
That sound like
I
a
shouldn't be
Pastor
laughing at
Span.
I really don't think we supposed to laugh.
hey, look, that's how we heal,
Well,
man.
that's
That's
how
how
it
we heal.
works,
So
you know what I'm
Right. That's true.
basically, I mean, like, but with that being said, I mean, he came back to his consciousness. Like I said, something happened at work, and that's when he realized he was supposed to retire. I think he should retire back in 2008, but you can't
Right.
tell my daddy nothing. He's a
He
hardworking
was
man.
strong. He was really
And,
strong. Yeah. What kind of work did your dad do?
He was a Palm Beach County sheriff.
Nice.
The Palm Beach County sheriff, yeah, man. So everybody and their mama knew my daddy, man. So even the cameraman knew my daddy. Shout out Rodney.
Plug.
Plug. Anyway, but yeah, he ended up. He actually got a chance. My son was born in January 2013. He actually got a chance to hold my son before he actually passed.
That's amazing.
Wow.
He
That's
actually had to hold my firstborn, and I think that's what he wanted. So as soon as he held him, man, he started bawling out, crying, and I kind of knew what time it was because he moved up to Port St. Lucie with this woman. I don't even want to say her name. Moved up there, and yeah, I think he moved away for us to not know what he's doing. I think he stopped the chemo. I think he kind of, I don't want to say he gave up because that's not the type of person my daddy was, but I think he accepted his time. So
Yeah, I can
I would
relate to
travel
that.
up there, even though I was working 2 jobs, still make time to go up there and Yeah, I had to bring my son because I knew what time it was. So I do want to thank that lady for calling me. So I got a chance to say bye the day before he died.
Wow.
That's
I
beautiful.
got a chance
That
to
is
kiss him on the
beautiful.
forehead the day before he died. So
That's good. He,
That's-
now
that's
he
a
know
great
he
memory
wasn't
to have,
alone.
Yeah.
Just to see one of
Right.
his children there giving him the love
mhm.
that he needed at that time. That is so precious.
And that probably
you know what?
released him
I
because you
remember.
were there. He
Yeah, I
said,
think-
"Okay, now I can go."
I remember
think so, too.
when
That's
Span
true.
was at Moffitt, when we was at Moffitt, and it was just like a few days before they were gonna release him to come home, but he was just like ready to go.
Yeah.
And he was like, take me home this weekend. I'm ready to go home. I'm like, I'm not driving home this weekend and to turn around to have to come back the next day or two. But he was just so adamant about getting home. I want to see my grandkids. I want to go home. I want to see. I'm like, honey, you're just going to have
That's
to
true.
hold on for 2 more days,
Mhm.
you know.
Mhm.
But,
And we
Yeah.
came
I want
up
to share
there-
this one part of the story
Yeah.
too before I get off the, I stop talking about my father real quick. So one day I seen him laying down too as well, and I think he found some peace in this. He kind of said this in front of me. Why me? And I said, and I never forget it. What makes you better than Jesus?
Mm.
Right? And he was like, "You're right." I said, "Jesus was perfect. And he was hung. He was hung on the cross.
Mhm.
And he leaked out. So what I told my dad, I was like, look, I think that when you get cancer, I think that's God giving you time with your family or do whatever you have to do before you pass.
Yeah.
Because I only know good people who got cancer. I don't know any bad people that got cancer. I can't name that one person that was bad that got cancer.
Mhm.
Not me. Not from my experience.
I feel the same way.
So
I feel
for-
the
exact
same way.
Yeah.
And the
So
thing about it is, my uncle, who just passed away from cancer in December, he was a family man. He
Mhm.
was the pastor, the bass player, the singer, you know what I'm saying? Like, just like Pastor Tom Span. He was like the patriarch of that family.
Right.
He was that glue. But sometimes I feel like God will allow that person to go through to let everybody else know that,
get the
like,
other
hey,
family members.
you guys got to
aligned.
stand on your own 2 feet now.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we try not to talk about it, but you said that God allowed him to have cancer. He allowed you guys to have time.
Right.
Mhm.
We think about like the death of Kobe and the others that was on that airplane
They
that
didn't
did not have the
enough time.
opportunity to say goodbye. You know what I'm saying? That did not have the
That's true.
opportunity to make things right or whatever the case may be. So I'm in awe. You know what I'm saying? That first of all, they diagnosed your dad only having 6 months to live.
Mhm.
And
Live.
once again, talking about his faith,
Mhm.
talking about his willpower, his grit, his drive, it lasted five
Yeah.
years.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's
a blessing all in itself. And then I think
words
a lot of
can't
times too,
explain how much
and I think a lot of times too,
it's really great.
we have to understand that sometimes our full healing, although we want it here on
Mhm.
earth, sometimes when we're saying that by his stripes we're healed when we go to glory. I know we don't like to talk about it like that, like, oh God, why couldn't you do it here on earth? Because the pattern here, and I know you didn't really go into detail on this particular episode, you did it on episode 1, but you were talking about those that are connected to you that also lost, you know what I'm saying, people close to them other than just Brennan, but you had other close friends that lost, you know what I'm saying, dads and uncles or whoever they were to their family, that God gave you that burden, that passion to say, I need to do something.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna ask, and anybody can answer this. What is it that one thing that you want to tell a dad out there that just found out that he has cancer, and remembering what you went through the ropes as well, Pastor Tom Span going through denial, your dad holding it from you, until he felt like, okay, you know what? Let me go ahead and reveal the truth.
Yeah.
What is something that you want to tell a dad out there that just got diagnosed with cancer?
Let me just piggyback 1 second, like Brendan was saying, like how his father said, "Why me?" Now, I'm positive my husband said the same thing. Why me? Why me? But he never really said it out loud. But the one thing that he did say was like, what he was going through. He was just like he was glad that God chose him for that.
Okay.
This task to go through the cancer, to live and deal with the cancer. He say, I'm so glad that God chose me and that I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. He said, I'm glad that instead of it being like one of his brothers, one of his sisters, one of his siblings, that God chose him to carry that, you know, because it was something. It
'Cause
was
he had the faith, and he had the faith to get through all that.
to
Right.
get
And
through
the-
it.
and the
Mhm.
strength.
Right.
So it makes sense.
So, Shatara, what is something that you want to tell a dad out there that just got diagnosed with cancer?
One thing I would say to a dad who was just diagnosed with cancer is to stay prayerful,
Okay.
living your truth. Whatever it is that you are living for, continue to live for that. Don't let that diagnosis of cancer detour you for whatever it is, whether it's your kids, whether it's your dreams, your goals, and also to just continue to educate yourself.
Yep.
Don't take what the doctors say and say, okay, that's it. It's okay to get a second or a third opinion.
That's right.
It's okay to do your own research. It's okay to go another route if you're not comfortable. If you feel like chemo isn't for you, then chemo isn't for you. It's not for everybody. But then just know that you have options. So whether your option, if you want to go a holistic route or a more natural route, then go that route.
But do something.
But don't just sit there and lay in it. Don't wallow in it. Don't just let it eat you up and tear you down, because at the end of the day, go back to what it is that you live for. Whether it be your spouse, your children, your mother, your friends, your family, whoever it is, you know. So I think at the end of the day, we all have something that drives us, something that pushes us. When we get out of bed, we say, okay, I got to get up. I got to go to work because of this individual or this things. Whatever it is that drive you, reach back, look back, pull deep, wherever you have to get it, you know, and think about that and let that be your push, your motivation, and get through this. Because like you said before, cancer is not a death sentence.
It's not.
It's not the end. And I do look at it as an opportunity to get it right. Whatever it is that was wrong, you do have that opportunity to get it right. So just know you have options. There are resources. Dad's Fighting Cancer. If you have questions, concerns, you know, if you don't know anything about insurance, if you don't know anything about chemotherapy, you don't know what doctor, what hospital is the best, whatever your questions are, just know that you have Dad's Fighting Cancer as a resource that you can ask any question, and if we don't have the answer, we will find that answer for you.
Absolutely.
So just know there's hope, and we're here to hold your hand.
One thing I want to say before I'll give it to someone else. That saying that goes, "What you don't know won't hurt you," is the biggest lie that you could ever be told. We think as men, if I don't go to the doctor and do my yearly checkup, then whatever they're not going to tell me is not going to affect me. And that's the furthest from the truth. The earlier that you go and just do a random physical or yearly checkup, routine checkup, it's at those times that you can fix the problem. And I know you was talking about in episode 1 about your colonoscopy that you had gotten.
Yeah.
And that
God, you had to mention that on the second one too?
yeah, bro, I'm finna put you on the spot. So anyway, so
Fetal position. Cameraman, you know about that.
so listen. So but once again, you took preventative measures. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
That that we thank God that it wasn't more than what it was. But who's to say that it would not have become that had you not be proactive and not be reactive?
Right,
Right. What it was, and you're still here. And how do you feel though? Like you got it out of the way. You're not stressed about it. How do you feel?
It's a relief, to be honest. It's a really good relief, knowing that it's not that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because you really don't want to hear bad news when you go to the doctor. But
You
in
don't.
this case, they said, "Oh, I mean, you got diverticulosis, but I mean, you already knew that, and there's nothing else." I was like, "Oh,
Okay.
well, thank
Okay.
you." All right.
All I gotta
I
do
still
now
feel violated, but thank you.
just watch what I eat.
Absolutely.
You know.
So,
So-
in other words, your stomach was hurting.
Yeah.
And you didn't know what the cause was, but you went to the doctor, and now you got an answer.
Right.
And
You're no longer
now
worrying
you're
and
no longer worried
wondering,
about wondering, like,
Right.
what if this
living in the
is
unknown.
colon
having somebody
cancer,
that's been
stomach
impacted by
or
cancer,
something, so
having somebody that got have gotten impacted by cancer or whatnot, you don't want to hear it again.
Right.
Mhm.
You really don't, especially somebody like a father or mother. Like, because they had it, it's possible for you to get it.
Right.
So it's even more scary is not a word. What's the word for it? Even more scared, right? To go to the doctor and really kind of find out what it is.
That fear of the
The
unknown.
fear.
The
of
fear.
unknown.
But it makes it that much more because your dad
Right. Like it could
died
be
from it,
Because you
hereditary.
remember what you went through.
Mhm.
Right,
Someone else
right.
went through that same
the
Right.
chemo burning him from everything.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
So,
It's
Radiation, chemo.
radiation, chemo.
Yeah.
Yes, it's just
It's not
like
easy.
prior to cancer, Mr. Span was just healthy. There was nothing else wrong with him
Mhm.
except for that sickness.
I can remember
Cancer.
growing up as a child. I never saw my dad like. When you think of the flu, you think of a person in the bed, covers pulled up to their chest, thermometer in their mouth, and a little bag on their head, right?
Yeah.
I never ever saw my dad like that. You know what I mean? I never saw him down and out. I never seen him with even a common cold, no nose running or anything like that. I just didn't
He was
see
a healthy
that.
guy.
He was
He was a
healthy,
really healthy guy, and he was always
energetic,
very
always
energetic,
moving, always
positive,
busy,
in the
positive.
house and out of the house. So what you saw at church and what you saw at work is what I saw at the house.
He's
He was like that.
He's such a busybody. He's this type of person. He's literally been in the hospital all week long. And when he had to go in for when he had to get his chemo treatments, he would do it in a week. And he would have the doctor admit him on Monday so he could be out on Friday. Or admit him on Tuesday so he could get out on Saturday. Know why? Because he needed to
He
be
wanted to
in
go to
church
church.
on Sunday. This man is
He wanted
literally
to be in
getting out of
church.
the hospital a week of chemo. And Sunday morning, he's
Mhm.
going to get up and he is going to church.
He didn't want to miss
That was
Sunday
just his
service.
joy. That's where he got his strength from.
Yeah.
And I mean, he would just get up and go to church after that chemo. But and he won't be feeling good, but he presses on. He will press his way.
I think we all can go on and on about our stories, and I would love to really hear more about each individual's story, or whether it's not cancer, but even going into the mental health.
Yeah, it's so much to be
It's
said, but
so
you
many
can't cover
levels
it.
to it, but we can't cover it all in one night.
Correct.
So I do thank you all for coming out tonight.
Absolutely.
And it was so great to hear you all open up, share your stories. Going back to what Tim was saying right before we close out this show, what is the one thing you would say to a man, a father, a uncle, someone's grandfather or brother, or someone's son who is just diagnosed with cancer? What is the one thing you would say to him to, whether give him hope, give him some type of push that he needs to keep striving?
I would say, I would tell that person, spend time with your peoples, spend time with your family, because that's what it's for. To be honest, like I said, that's how I feel. Spend time with your family because you actually got the time to do so. There's a lot of people that was taken out like that. So
Right.
take the time that God's given you with your family. I would say that, and
I like that.
and drink water.
I agree. Spend time with your family.
Like a line.
You know, trust God, trust the process, and just know that God is greater than any situation that
Absolutely.
you're going through.
Absolutely.
That God is bigger than cancer on any day.
Yeah.
You know, and not only that, but you got your family behind you, and your children, your family, your kids, grandkids, whatever it may be, and that should be your joy, and that should be your strength, and that should encourage you to push on, move, you know, do whatever it is that the doctors are asking of you to do that's going to help your situation. But most important is to keep God first, trust him.
I
Absolutely.
think for me, I would tell that dad that although you think that you're dealing with it alone, there's a whole community out
Whole
here
community.
that's waiting to help.
Amen.
That all you have to do is say, "Hey,
I need help.
I need help."
Pick up
That's
that
the
phone.
hardest
That's
thing.
all you got to do.
That's the hardest thing for
Yes.
a lot of us men. It's just to say, "I need help."
Right.
Prideful.
But getting off my soapbox, I just want to say that whoever that dad is, and even if it's a woman, I mean, I know this is dad fighting cancer, but if you feel like you fight this fight
Yeah, the
alone,
caretaker,
there's a
she
whole
needs
community
someone.
out
Right.
here. Dad's fighting cancer. There's a whole community out here that is waiting to help. Whether it's just like we talk about washing your dishes, giving you a ride to the doctors, you know what I'm saying, or whatever the case may be, you don't
Right.
have to deal with it by yourself.
That's
Yes.
true.
Reach out to us.
Yeah,
And-
that caregiver may need some help, some
That's true.
relief, you know. So
And
Absolutely.
you just reach out. I mean, even like with the men, even if you don't need anything financially,
Right.
or someone to come and cut your grass or
Sit
paint your
talk.
house or wash your car or
Mhm.
whatever.
Mhm.
But if you just need someone just to come and sit and talk to you or just listen to you,
Watch some football,
you know, watch
the fetal
football,
basketball.
you know,
I'm not watching
that's
football.
okay too.
That's a little
To
weird.
reach
Man.
So, if there is a man or a woman who knows a man or a son, or you're dealing with cancer and you want to reach out to Dad's Fighting Cancer, you can find us on Facebook. We're at Dad's Fighting Cancer, Pastor Tom Spann Seniors Organization. You can always inbox us, message us, send me a post directly, a message directly. I will respond. You can also reach out to us at on Instagram as well. And then please, go on to YouTube and you can subscribe. And for questions and more info, you can go to dfcinfo@gmail.com.
Yeah. So
And
All right.
always remember,
And always remember, by
By
his
his
stripes,
stripes,
we
we
are
are
healed.
Have a good night.
Bye. Thank you for tuning in.
Dad's fighting cancer. Hey, this for dad's fighting cancer. Hey, get strong.